Thank
to
you so
4
much for
p.m.
giving us that bridging the
And
gap
then we're going to
between
have our
coding and
farewell day.
storytelling. I hope those creatives definitely
How do
got
we
something
use the
from this. As a
will
creative, I
be
definitely learned a
virtual
lot about
tomorrow?
tech
All
through
right.
seeing
So
that. But what we're going to learn
no,
about right now,
Victor, this is
for
not
those
the
that are looking
workshop.
to
The
get into
workshop is
product, for
going to
those that
start
are
in a few
already in
moments.
product, or
The
those that
Wi-Fi
founders,
has been trying to be in the way with
when
us
you
today,
have a
but the
product, right?
technical difficulties, we will continue to
A product
overcome
right here.
them. We are going to get
What
started with
you
this session in just a moment. That is going to be turning your setbacks into comebacks. So that session will be coming up in just a few moments. But right now, I'm just giving you guys an overview as we wait for what's to come for the rest of this week, the test giving session. Next question: will there be virtual sessions tomorrow? Let me just ask this text in the chat real quick. I'll get back to you with that answer in just a moment. Let me see. All right, so I'm gonna get back to you with that answer, Roxanne. I promise you, I'll let y'all know if tomorrow's sessions are virtual. I know that for sure Friday's sessions are virtual, but I just don't want to give you any false, answers. So I'm gonna ask, that's the team and make sure. Um, how do we use the expo functionality online? Let me just double check real quick. So I'll get back to you with that answer as well as how to use the expo functionality online. One moment. All right, I'm going to get the answer for you as well. And the virtual sessions, I'm going to have the text giving team send a link in the chat for you. As far as the virtual sessions, there's a link once again, the link to access that, and you'll be able to just log in just like you are right here, and then you'll be able to just see for the entire day. And of course, it's going to be all in one room on Friday, so we'll be able to just keep everything flowing for the entire day. You'll get to pop in for Yannick's DJ sessions and all the other workshops throughout the day. So you'll be good to go. And I'm just waiting for the answer. One more. Perfect. Okay. The event schedule link is down. Let me double check right here. It should be up now. Let me take that link into the chat. All right, I'm waiting to get those a few answers for y'all about the virtual sessions tomorrow, and then as far as the expo. Are y'all sure the link is down? I'm able to access it right now on my computer. But I'll let the team know. But is it down for everybody? Because I'm able to access it on my side on my computer. And I don't have any special access either. All right. Let me know if y'all have any other questions. You waiting to get those answers about the but let me know if anything I can answer. Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's here as well to answer any questions that you all have. And so one question, yeah, the one question that we do has is tomorrow gonna be virtual as well? As far as the badges go, you're gonna get those at after. You're gonna get those later. Perfect. All right. So to answer the question about tomorrow, tomorrow will be virtual on the main stage. You'll be able to access the main stage only. We're gonna have workshops going on in different rooms, but any any workshop that's gonna be on the main stage, you'll be able to answer that. You'll be able to watch that. There will be streams on the main stage. Okay. And then I believe I had one more question that need to be answered. Let me see. Yep. Okay, so there you go. So you can get your badges at the welcome event tonight or at the Audi Field tomorrow. And lastly, how do we get in touch with the expo companies online? I'm not gonna sit here and lie. You know, I'm never gonna lie and act like I know the answers to every question, but I'm gonna get y'all the answers up. Call me the connector, but I might not have an answer to everything. You're very welcome. So lastly, Yada, they want to know how do they get in touch with the expo companies if they're going to be tapping in virtually, if they're going to be online. Okay, Kurt, cool. You got it. All right, y'all. So we're gonna get going in just a few moments with the last workshop of the day. If y'all have any more questions, let me know. I'm gonna play some tune for y'all while we wait. Let me know if y'all have any songs that y'all would like to hear. But until then, DJ Coke about to do his thing for a second.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
One second. You gonna make me turn. All right. So looks like perfect. All right, Genesis, you're here. Glad to have you here. All right. So we're going to get started with our final workshop of the day. Once again, please show some love for Genesis Bonds. You got it. You take over.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm hearing myself like as an echo, a little bit delayed, so that's a little bit strange. But I'm ready to get started. So hey everyone, nice to I guess speak with you. I am Genesis Bonds, and today I'm going to be talking with you guys about I guess recovering after a layoff. Hey friends, I see everyone's. Oh god, this. Um, okay, I'm sorry. This is very, very strange. I don't see, all I see on one screen, I'm not sure if you can even hear that delay, but um, I don't know. I guess I'm going to talk into the ether right now and we'll see what happens because I'm not seeing the chat on this one, this screen. But anyways, so today I want to talk with you guys about what it's like once you get laid off from a tech role and then obviously how to get a new role. And just keeping yourself positive throughout the entire process. So at the moment, I am pulling up, or again, trying to figure out why this is happening this way, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just get into it. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see this? Oh, I guess I wouldn't even know. All right. Let's see. I think people. So I can't see the chat, so just bear with me. I'm going to ask my text giving team to text me. I can see text messages, and I only see the private chat, just so you guys can hear me. Thank you. There's no echo. Okay, thanks. So let's get into it. Again, my name is Genesis Bonds. I am a senior software engineer currently at Bloomberg. But throughout my career, I've had a lot of ups and downs. And I think, something that's made me, I won't say that's given me, I guess, power throughout my process, but something that's really helped me progress has been super vulnerable about everything, from difficulties in college to difficulties with being laid off. So when I was laid off, I definitely was able to take my time and process things. Now I feel much better. It was over a year ago at this point. But I've seen, obviously, like last week, I think people from Spotify got laid off. I know about 30,000 people from Pfizer got laid off. So we're still not out of the thick of things with this. That being said, I think it's really important to prepare yourself for these things and also to just recognize that it's not just you who's going through it. So let's discuss. So first I want to discuss layoffs, severance, if you have one, and moving forward. And then, of course, planning out your timeline for studying and getting a new role financially, because one thing we're not going to do is sit around, not make any money, right? How to leverage your network, and then preparing for interviews. So layoffs and severance. First, I want to talk to you guys about my time at Meta and how honestly devastating it was and why it was so ridiculous. So when I started in September 2019, I started as a rotational software engineer. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, sorry about that, familiar with those programs at these tech companies, but basically what I've come to find out is that they use them as sort of pseudo DEI opportunities because it'll be a program where you enter a space and then you're rotating either every 5 to 6 months. I've seen it for product management roles, software engineer roles, and otherwise. More often than not, unfortunately, you see more women in these spaces. You'll see more Black people in these spaces. But it is a good way to get your foot in the door as a full-time engineer or a full-time employee. At Meta, when you joined, you're joining as an IC3, which is basically right out of college. And what this means is they're not necessarily sure if you're ready just yet to be full-time, or I'm sorry, to be an IC or let's say mid-level engineer. So you're not just out of school, but you're not quite yet IC4 material. So they give you a year to get your life together and basically prove that you're an IC4, which I did by October 22 or 2020. Throughout my time there, I was moving between teams a lot, obviously because we started off as a rotational engineer. And then in January 2022, I moved over to Instagram Music, which I loved. And I joined because of the fact that, of course, Facebook, Instagram, and the family of apps are mostly mobile apps. And trying to find a good team on web just wasn't really doing it for me. So I switched to Android, trying to learn a completely new stack. It was difficult for me, but I realized around, let's say, I don't know, midsummer that, I was on track, was meeting expectations okay. And around September 2022, I was asked to speak at the Women in Engineering Conference, which I thought was really interesting, given that by November 9th, 2022, I was receiving an email while I was working in the morning that I was laid off. And okay, my computer's freezing, but I have a screenshot of the email. You guys are going to absolutely love it. Please hold. Ooh. Sorry. I don't know what's been going on, guys. My computer never acts up, so sorry about the mute issue. I'm not sure what you heard or what you didn't, so I will briefly recap. And what I was I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? What is going on?
You're back now. We can hear you.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, it's been acting up for all of us all day. You good?
All right. Sorry. Okay. Can you see my screen? I hope. Actually, no, you can't see my screen. I'm gonna present. Share screen again. I'm sorry, guys. But all right. So yes, I was pretty frustrated. But a couple of things that are important, right? When this first happens, you're going to be thinking about, damn, what did I do wrong? Especially being that I had just transferred to a new team, I was actually quite mortified. I was like, oh my God, I should have never went to Android. I don't know what's going on, so on and so forth. But we had just spoken, our team had just spoken when rumors happened. And my manager told us, I promise you guys, the day before, we should be good. Everyone on this team should be good because we're honestly a revenue driving team. And, you know, everything should hypothetically be fine. Obviously, that wasn't the case for myself and another person on my team. It was two Android engineers. And the other one, he had been there for maybe 6 years. So truly, I think there was like no rhyme or reason, but it did take me a while to not take things personally. So the first point here that I want to say is it's definitely okay to be sad, but not be stuck. The first few days of the layoff, I was like, all right, I'm going to sit and feel sorry for myself, but now let's get into business. A couple things to remember is to not take it personally, as 40% of Americans have been laid off at least once in their lifetime. So it is a very common occurrence. And now, actually, I was doing some research about what's been going on with the economy. About 28% of Americans have been laid off within the last 2 years. So, while of course it's not ideal, right? Do remember that this is something that we're sort of all dealing with together with the state of the economy. The best way to move forward after a tech layoff is to definitely make sure you're thoroughly understanding the stipulations of your layoff package and severance. The way that it worked at Facebook was you get 16 weeks, of pay, and then you get 2 weeks for every year that you've been there, plus all your PTO, which I thought was kind of lit. However, if you were to get a job before, I think it was, I got laid off in November, and I think it was February 22nd or something like that. And if I were to be employed before then and Facebook found out, then they would cancel the rest of my severance, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. So I'm happy that, I'm not happy that the process to get a new job took so long, but I'm happy that I, was reading everything and made sure I didn't, because you don't want to leave any money on the table. Before you send back any company devices, make sure that you're looking through your old projects, because sometimes, especially when you're dealing with all this, work grief and the stress and this anxiety, you may not remember everything that you've done. So if possible, if you still have access, you have anything local, go through everything that you've done. I wouldn't say downloading files because it's probably illegal, but make sure that you're going through anything that you have on your computer to make sure that you can summarize, all right, from this quarter to this quarter to this quarter, this is what I accomplished, because that'll be super important moving forward for your interviews. Again, for me, vulnerability brought comfort, and I don't think that it's the case for everyone. I do know that when it first happened, there's things in the news about Facebook layoffs. So I got texts from people who I haven't heard from in years, right? Like, oh, Jen, I just want to check on you. Like, no, babe, you don't want to check on me. I would say that's not even vulnerability. That's just protecting your space. But don't feel the need to make some fancy, dramatic LinkedIn post. I will say that, we'll get into that actually, but definitely protect your peace. Make sure that you know who you can speak to about things. And, again, don't impulse buy everything you see online. That's very important. And take a few days to be mad at the world, but then it's time to get back to business. So in that vein, how do we plan our financial timeline? What you should do first is just make sure that you're looking at, okay, what are your bills right now? Do I have things that are unnecessary? At one point my family's plugged for the Netflix, Hulu, Disney, all that stuff, which honestly I still am. But at the time I was like, okay, which ones can I cut back on? Do I need to be Ubering everywhere? Do I need to be going out right now? Because I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a new role. And taking the account into market, it's really, at first, I thought, all right, I'm going to November, be sorry for myself. December, start making a plan and start studying. January, what I was going to do was, continue studying. And then I was going to start interviewing in February. I didn't start studying until really January, to be honest. And to me, if I look back, that's one regret I have, because there were so many things when I was interviewing where I was told, hey, you're good for this role, but right now our bar is up here. There are layoffs going on every month, and the market is definitely super saturated. So make sure that you give yourself the best shot when it comes to interviews. Applying for unemployment benefits can definitely help you sustain yourself over the time. I, fortunately enough, had not applied for unemployment benefits before this time. So I had no idea that you had to log in every week and say that you're still looking for employment. So I skipped out or missed out on a ton of money, which I feel like not smart about. So just make sure you're paying attention to your state's rules and regulations. And then that being said, take the time you need. So if you're able to plan backwards, for how long can your money stretch? Would that being severance or savings, or can you move home for a little bit? Can you move in with someone, do you need to be paying that $3,000 rent? Figure out how much time you can take for just unstressing yourself, because it is a big deal for this to happen, especially if it's your first time, to studying for interviews and actually scheduling out these interviews. Something that's also important to note is there were 2 companies I interviewed for, and I passed the phone screen. One recruiter calls me back and he's like, "Hey, Genesis, do you want the good news or the bad news first?" And I was like, "Of course, give me the bad news." So he didn't listen. He gave me the good news first and said, "Well, you passed your phone screen, but we are on a hiring freeze right now." And I didn't hear back from them for about a month and a half until, so I told you guys I'm working in Bloomberg now. I heard back from him the same week that I was interviewing in Bloomberg. So I didn't even do their full on-site because also personally, I don't think it makes too much sense to get laid off and then go work at a company that just had layoffs. All right, so next I would like to talk to you guys about networking and why it's so important for this part of your life. There are so many people who are rooting for everybody Black, and you want to tap into that, okay? So first and foremost, I think the easiest thing to do is just be social on social media, right? We do a lot of talking about whatever the case is, but I think it's really the best time when you're on social media to start joining different, let's say, Twitter spaces to, of course, be a part of Black Tech Twitter, but there's so much more than that. For example, if you guys are here right now, you should all be in the Techsgiving Discord. There's also, of course, Render Atlanta Discords. There's Baddies in Tech Discords. I also joined, which I found to be super helpful, this Black Algorithm Study Group. It was a Discord where I think I can, if anyone reaches out to me, if you reach out to me via LinkedIn, if you're looking for different networking opportunities, I can probably get a link for you to join. Please hold. But I found that someone introduced me to that group. Then it was really cool because 2 days a week, it was all free. There's no membership. There's no anyone who's doing it. It's just people who love algorithms and want to learn and love Black people. So 2 days a week, they send out a problem that they'll be going over. And then as a group, everyone works together to solve these coding data algorithm problems. I loved it. And I thought it was really helpful. So there's spaces like that all the time on socials. Make sure that you're leveraging who you know and increase the what you know. So attending networking events, I think that I've been reached out to via LinkedIn from people from JPMC, from honestly from Bloomberg before I was at Bloomberg, and from a ton of different companies just by expressing interest in the company on LinkedIn. There's that, there's the Meetup app, there's of course events like this. I think that what will help you guys first start feeling confident talking with people again, because of course interviews are all about selling yourself. So networking is honestly still part of interview prep. But if you attend these networking events, you don't know who you'll meet and how they can put you in front of different eyes. So do your best to attend. I think what's a very reasonable ask is at least 2 events a month while you're preparing for your new role. Keeping your LinkedIn active is incredibly important. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this new wave of LinkedIn influencers. I don't know what's going on, but everything is influency these days. I would say a healthy place to be is between that and never, let's say closer to the LinkedIn influencer actually, but just make sure that you have a profile picture, a nice headshot. Make sure that you have a list of the things that you've accomplished at every role, not just we did this, of course. How can you sell yourself on LinkedIn? I think a strong bio is also very important. But as you're learning, as you are meeting new people, as you're attending events, make sure you're making regular posts to increase your reach and to ideally get your page in the eyes of different recruiters. And lastly, don't forget about your alumni network in various organizations. I went to Duke University. I'm also an AKA. Throughout this time, I was able to lean on my sorors. I was able to lean on my Duke Black alumni in New York network. And honestly, even through those organizations, I've been able to, one, meet up with people who are willing to sit down with me and mock interview me, and also just reach out to people about different roles that I wasn't necessarily sure I could, let's say, explore, right? Because for a while, as I was thinking about studying for these interviews, and I was struggling about graph problems, so on and so forth, I was like, ugh, do I even like coding anymore? Do I want to go into developer advocacy? So I was able to speak with some wonderful people about developer advocate roles and realize I'm just frustrated. I do like to code and I'm going to stick with this. But either way, make sure that you're reaching out to the people who are in your network. So I've been wanting to speak with a lot of people about this. The do's and don'ts of leveraging your network, right? As you attempt to network with different people, it's really, really important to make sure that you're doing the right thing and making sure that people want to speak with you, right? I think there are great ways to network and there are ways that maybe not the best. How much time do I have? If someone can let me know, I don't know when the session ends. But anyways, so good idea is to reach out to people who are in the field that you're in and not just people in tech, right? I've had people reach out to me for cybersecurity stuff. I love, myself. I do think I'm a very smart person, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about everything, and neither does anyone else, right? So you want to reach out to people who you know have expertise in the things that you're curious about. And if you don't know what you're curious about, if you don't know what you want to go into, right? If you are exploring new roles, still reach out to different people for those things. And I think, actually don't have that much time. So either way, I'll leave it at that. Come up with specific questions for the person you're meeting with. So when I met with the person who was a developer advocate, I didn't just say, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me what you do. I was saying, hey, you used to be a software engineer and now you're a developer advocate. What skills did you take from software engineering to translate into developer advocacy? And do you she knows me. So I was like, do you feel like this would be something that I could do? What is the work-life balance between these things compared, so on and so forth. So definitely make sure that you're coming up with specific questions for these people. You want to make it as easy as possible for someone to meet up with you. What that means is don't just say, hey, I would love to talk with you sometime. You let me know when you're free. You let me know this. No. What you should do is, hey, I'm free, or would you spend 15 minutes speaking with me, right? You want to send them a Google invite link. You want to send them the calendar, or if you want to meet up in person, make sure that you're coming up with where you guys are going to meet, so on and so forth. You want it to be as seamless as possible because you're not going to pay this person. And ideally, you're not saying, hey, do this for me and I'll do this for you, right? That sort of is disingenuous. You want people who are going to pour into you, but of course, with minimum barrier to entry. Something that's also important is to take notes of the people you're reaching out with. I am a huge fan of Notion. In the coming slides, I'm going to show you guys the Notion boards that I have and that I've used. But in one of my Notion, well, if you're not familiar with it, it's Notion. It's an application that is effectively like a project management app. You can take tons of notes. It's really, really nice. And there's tons of templates online. But you want to take notes of the people you're meeting with, the date, if there are any action items, because you don't want to reach out to that person again, to speak with them again, and they told you to do 3 things before you reach out and you didn't do it, right? Because then you look very unserious. So make sure that you're taking notes of things to do. Bad ideas, of course, as you see, how do I break into tech? Cold emails with people you have no idea about, to say, hey, tell me what you did to get here, or anything like that. It's really important to make sure that you're not asking someone to do basically career consulting for free, because it might rub them the wrong way. And lastly, I think it's really it can be frustrating if you're reaching out to someone with small talk, just pretending you want to speak with them again. And then, 30 minutes into the conversation, it's, oh, hey, by the way, can you refer me for this, right? Obviously, you want to make small talk with people, and it's not just about what they can do for you, but it's really important to ask people, if you're going to do that, ask people for what you want up front and then check in, because it can seem disingenuous. Okay, so interviews, how to get them, how to keep track of them, and how to pass them. I think it's really important to understand what kind of study materials work best for you. So some people are more visual learners. You're going to need your videos, you're going to need lots of pictures, you're going to need to see how things are happening with diagrams, so on and so forth. Whereas other people, maybe you want to read all the time, you don't want to hear anybody talking to you, you want to listen to music while you study. You need more written content. Throughout my time of interviews, I don't even know how many websites I've explored or shared passwords with people to see, okay, is this worth me spending money on, so on and so forth. And these are some more niche ones that I found. Of course, everyone knows LeetCode, various YouTube videos, Algo Expert, but a couple of them that I found to be super, super useful throughout my time studying. Excuse me. One was Brilliant Black Minds, which I will talk about any day. It's actually a program that Serena Williams is involved with. It's a part of this company called Carrot. And what they do is give you free interviews with experienced interviewers. And the great thing about it is that if you do well enough on your interviews, those can actually qualify you, or they count as your phone screening for some companies that they're partnered with. So after a few interviews there, I was actually qualified to interview for Amazon Prime Video and Citibank. And I know that a lot of people have actually gotten roles from Brilliant Black Minds, where it's just free interviews that you can sign up for at any time. So it's really great. Educative.io is text lessons, which I thought was nice because, again, sometimes I don't like to be talked at when I'm studying. But they're text lessons and I have a little screenshot. This is what each thing looks like, So for various different course tracks, you can walk through and it'll tell you what give you information. And then at the bottom, there'll be challenges. Interview Cake, I thought was awesome because it gives you a problem and then it'll list out the issue and then it gives you a little bit of snippet of code to solve it. And then if you're not sure what to do, it says, hey, do you need more help? And it'll give you clues and give you back context for how to approach the problem. When I was actually interviewing for Facebook back in 2019, I swore by this website, but I think they increased their price. So I don't know. I don't swear by it anymore. But it's a great platform. And if you can share it with like 3 people, then I would definitely say try it, go for it. Structy is really cool. That also is video content. And then it'll have like videos where you can explain things. And then on the right is where you're solving code. I actually also signed up for LeetCode Premium, which I thought was really interesting because then you can see how the experts would solve those problems on LeetCode. And you should, of course, be doing LeetCode problems very frequently. And again, if anyone has any questions about interview process, I have a bunch of notes that I keep, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn later. Oh, last thing I'll say actually is this point. Don't get too many courses if you're not someone who finishes them because it's really important that you're actually thinking, okay, do I like video content? Do I like written content? And then stick with maybe one thing for the coding challenges and then maybe one for the interviews about, the system design. So you're going to need system design stuff and also your coding challenge materials. Try your best not to just be buying everything because it looks cool at first. I got a little excited when I was first studying because I was like, yeah, I'm going to study and bunker down. But then these things are like 200 hours each. You're not going to have time to finish every course. It's a lot of repetitive material. Just figure out which one is the best for your learning style. So treat interviews like your finals, right? You want to make sure that you have a study guide that is going to be comprehensive, that's going to be easy to keep track of, and that you're willing to go back to, right? The last thing you want to do is be taking notes when you're reading all these things on loosely paper and never see it again, right? Also, you don't want just one large document that's not organized at all. So this is Notion. Again, I love it. I'm obsessed. I have this template where actually I just made, I think I just made this template. But either way, for every topic of, let's say, areas that I studied, I made sure that I took some notes. I have different sources that I used. And I think one last piece that I'll say about studying for these software engineering interviews is to make sure that you're not just doing problems where it's like, okay, I'm going to study heaps. I'm going to study stacks. I'm going to study arrays. The really important thing to do is make sure that you're understanding approaches for these problems, such as the sliding windows, the 2-pointer problems, the sorting and sorting, right? Because these are approaches that you're going to take to solve very complex problems or very simple problems. But you want to be able to look at this problem and say, okay, this is something where I'm going to need to analyze the largest or the sum or something like that over a sliding window, right? Being able to point those things out and communicate those through your interviews is going to let the interviewer know that not only are you prepared, but you can notice patterns and apply them to more complex problems. But again, I would say whatever you use to make your notes, make sure that you're keeping them organized and that okay, I'm going to go through this for 3 days. I'm going to go through this topic for 3 days and give yourself exams and make sure that you're going back to solving these old problems once you feel like you've mastered them. So landing and nailing the interviews. I have a story that I feel like is great, honestly. So I was interviewing at Airbnb and one of my friends who graduated from school with me, very, very smart guy. He majored in math and econ and had never done any coding professionally, but he went to a boot camp and paid like a ton of money for it. And I was just like, okay, this is very scary to me, right? Like in these waters of everyone getting laid off, this person just paid all this money to be a software engineer. I'm really scared, whatever. He couldn't get in front of a recruiter, but I know this person, I know that they're very smart, and he joined the Black Algorithm Study Group that I mentioned to you all. He joined it, and within like a month, he's here leading the discussion. So I was like, okay, he'll be fine. I connected him with my Airbnb interviewer. This man is currently making $300,000 as his first role, which I'm not sitting here advertising is going to happen every time, And of course, like I said, he was killing the interviews and has corporate experience from other things. And obviously Airbnb can afford to pay people a lot of money, but I think it's really important he leveraged his network and I was able to connect him with an interviewer, right? But you don't know what is on the other side of just a conversation. So that being said, I was saying, regardless of how impressive your interview or your LinkedIn is, unfortunately, the recruiters won't always come to you because, again, the market is so saturated. So make sure that you're networking and leveraging your connections, and also going out on a limb and just applying for any job you see. I was applying for jobs at Peloton and CVS, like CVS corporate, of course. But yeah, just make sure that you're putting yourself out there, and make sure you're keeping track of your interviews. So I have this interview tracker Notion board, once again, that I thought was really useful in order to make sure I'm keeping track of what kind of interview this was. What was the problem? How did I feel like I did? And how can I improve for the next time? Oh, and I guess that's it. So I wanted to make sure, I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I'm done at 3:15. If someone, I'm not sure. If anyone has a question, you can feel free to ask. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I went over some of the things that really helped me get a new role. Another thing that I actually want to mention, if there are no questions, is that a lot of these companies have cool off periods. So if you interview with them, you may not be able to interview again for like 6 months, right? That being said, what you want to do is make sure that you enter the space prepared. So I didn't interview when I first started studying, because I didn't want to, of course, ice myself out of a potential role. So there's one question. I'll wait for that. But it's important to make sure that you are speaking with your recruiter to say, hey, because as a senior engineer, you're more often than not going to interview with a particular team. So I interviewed with Bloomberg for one team, and then I actually didn't get that role. That was a time where I thought I killed the interview. And my sourcer said, you did well, but the way that the market is, the team TL said, a tech lead, said that she's good, but maybe not for a senior role right now. And then I interviewed for a different team and actually was able to start working at Bloomberg, which I was happy about. So, it's important to stay motivated and to make sure that you are spacing out your interviews to recover and recuperate from them. Okay, so Kofi says there's a question.
All right. So first of all, you did an amazing job. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for giving us a tech level up masterclass, because there was just so many different areas to keep yourself busy, whether you are laid off or just even if you're still working. There's ways to just prime yourself for your next role. Now, the first question that we do have for you is, what is your advice on the best way to reach out to hiring managers and recruiters?
Hiring managers and recruiters, I would say don't reach out to hiring managers, to keep it a stack. A lot of times they can be a little bit, if you have no connection with them, you're going to want to reach out to recruiters and technical sources. Those are the people who, of course, are the people who are going to get you into the pipeline. Many times, or I would say maybe if you want to connect with them on LinkedIn or start commenting on their posts, maybe so they can see your name, that's one thing. But many times if you have no connection with a hiring manager, they're not going to be the person who's saying, hey, let's put this person in front of the role, right? Excuse me. So reaching out, just cold calling, I think, is not something that I'm particularly good at. So as maybe I sit and I kind of project how I feel about it onto people. So there's different advice and there's different approaches for different people, because we're all different. But I would say the approach that I would give is to put yourself in positions to meet these people. So again, you should be looking at online. There's recruiters are typically posting about roles that are open. Maybe you can, again, start networking with different recruiters by going to these events. But I would not say to reach out directly to hiring managers.
For sure. All right. Can you tell us your background and degree?
My background
and degree.
Oh, well, friends, I went to Duke, and I started off as an electrical computer engineering major, and I actually failed. So this is the thing where I started doing public speaking a little bit, because I wrote an article about this when I got my job at Facebook, because I failed 2 classes, and actually Duke doesn't do academic probation. They just dismiss you so that you don't mess up their graduation rate. So I actually failed 2 classes, failed out of school, which is really cute, and then had to reapply after 6 months, because they're basically like, get your life together. So did that, and then I transferred into computer science. So I graduated from Duke with a CS degree. Obviously, that being said, GPA was trash. So I was like, okay, how can I get myself in the market? And I ended up going to this boot camp called Reviture, which I really thought was interesting, because boot camps now, and also this is back in 2016. So I have a lot of feelings about boot camps now, but I won't say that here. I think the thing that I liked about the boot camp I went to was we kind of each had an equal stake because it was free. They paid for your certifications. They paid you minimum wage every week, and they actually housed you. But you had to work for them for 2 years. First year was going to be 50K. Second year, I think, was like 55K or something. But you'd have to go anywhere that they wanted you to go. So whether that's Arkansas for Walmart or New York for JPMC, either way, I did well. I was a technical trainer there because they hire trainers from the program. So I did that for 3 years, full stack web, and then I was at Facebook, and now I'm at Bloomberg. So it's kind of all over the place. I kind of just fell into that role, but it honestly changed my life, and I'm very grateful for it. But that's my background, technically.
Sorry, thanks for that. And that was a quick little wind through your entire story. So you mentioned boot camps, and I know you said you didn't want to talk about it, but somebody asked, how do you feel about boot camps versus online certification?
Okay, online certs absolutely necessary for like cybersecurity. I have a online cert. I have a Java certification. Nobody has asked me about that literally ever. No one cares. But I would say if you are someone who's self-taught, right, those are good ways to verify that you know what you're talking about. If you have not had a degree in CS, if you don't have experience, everything like it can't hurt to validate your knowledge base with a certification, right? But it's not something that you are gonna like bring up in an interview to say, oh yeah, like I'm an expert or something like that. More